Dear students, so today our topic is nuclear magnetic resonance. In short, NMR. This nuclear magnetic resonance, it is a very important spectroscopic technique, and it's a very versatile, useful in most of the areas and most of the subjects. It has vast applications in physics, in chemistry, in biology, and in medicine. Now, the most important application of this NMR spectroscopic technique is in determining the structure of unknown molecules. So the molecules can be simple organic molecules, or they can be biomolecules in biology, proteins, or they can be materials. So in material chemistry also it has very important applications. Material sciences. So one of the important applications you must be knowing in medicine is MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Now, before we talk about in detail about these applications in subsequent classes, so first we will start from the beginning. So I would like first to define what this spectroscopic technique is. So this spectroscopic technique, it involves the measurement or making record of the absorption of light by molecules in radio frequency region. Of electromagnetic spectrum in presence of an externally applied magnetic field. Now here I would like to give emphasis on these two words, radio frequency region and then externally applied magnetic field. Though you might have learned about some other spectroscopic techniques. For example, in our earlier classes we studied electronic spectroscopy, we studied vibrational spectroscopy, we also study, rotational spectroscopy. Now I will begin by saying that how this NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, as spectroscopic technique, it is different than most of the spectroscopic techniques like these. So the first difference is that in these spectroscopies, the light sources, for example in electronic spectroscopy, we use UV visible light, and in vibrational spectroscopy we use infrared light, and in rotational spectroscopy, as you might be knowing we use microwaves. But in this spectroscopic technique, which is under discussion, that is NMR, we are using radio frequency region of electromagnetic spectrum. So that is the first difference. And the second important difference is that in these spectroscopic techniques, we usually do not use any applied field. And in this spectroscopic techniques, in NMR spectroscopy, what we are using? We are using an external applied magnetic field. So that is same with some other techniques. For example, we have electron spin resonance technique, EPR we call it, electron paramagnetic resonance spectroscopy. So these class of spectroscopies are different than these spectroscopies in two respects. One, we are using a specific light of specific wavelength or frequency. So in this case, we are using usually the light from 60 megahertz frequency to approximately 1000 megahertz. So that is altogether a different region of the electromagnetic radiations. And the second important aspect of this technique is that this spectroscopy involves the nuclear spin state transitions. Or excitations which take place by absorption of the radio frequency. Of radio frequency photon. Now again we are talking about nuclear spin. So that means this nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, it is having a special importance vis-a-vis the nucleus of the various elements. So that is why we call it nuclear. So this nuclear name is because it pertains to the transitions, the spin state transitions of the nuclei of certain elements. Now that means we have the nucleus and then we talk about the nuclear spin. So there are many elements, a class of elements, where the nucleus of the elements, they have some net spin. And there are elements where the nucleus of those nuclei of those elements, they do not possess any spin. Now before coming to this spin, I talk about the fundamental particles. Say we talk about the electron, proton and neutron. Now these are the elementary particles, and this class of particles, they fall in what we call fermions. And we know that fermions, they are different from bosons, say in respect of that they have a net spin of half unit. So the spin quantum number, we can designate the spin quantum number of protons and neutrons by I, and I value for protons and neutrons, it is 1 by 2. And in the same way for electrons also, the spin quantum number usually used is L, and L value for the electrons is 1 by 2. That means the fermions, by definition, they are the elementary particles which have half unit of spin as compared to bosons. For example, light particle, we have the photon. The photon, for the photon, the spin is 1 unit. Photons have 1 unit of intrinsic spin. So now we talk about the electrons, protons and neutrons, and we know nucleus, that is a very elementary concept, that nucleus, they have the nucleons, protons and neutrons. And then there are many other particles in the nucleus of atoms. We are not talking about those particles. They are in particle physics. You must be knowing that. But we concentrate on protons and neutrons. Now, since protons and neutrons, they have some net spin of half unit. Now, it depends on how these protons and neutrons, their spin pair up in the nucleus. And if we have in a nucleus, in a particular nucleus, all the protons and all the nucleons, they have their spin paired up, they are paired in an antiparallel manner. That means if we say up spin and down spin. So if all the protons and all the neutrons, they have the paired spin, up spin and down spin, then the nucleus as a whole, it will not have any spin. So in that case, we write for nucleus the spin quantum number I, it will be equal to 0. So it will take 0 value. And such nuclei, they are not relevant in NMR. They have nothing to do with NMR. So for example, we take the example of carbon 12. Now carbon 12 isotope, in this we have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. So we have even number of protons, even number of neutrons, and all the protons and neutrons they have paired spin, and therefore the I value it is equal to 0. But if we talk about, say, hydrogen nucleus, hydrogen 1, and when we are doing NMR on hydrogen 1 nuclei, we call that technique as hydrogen 1 NMR. Or we talk about carbon 13 nucleus. Now in carbon 13 nucleus we have one more additional neutron. So in that case, all the protons and neutrons, they are not having paired spins, and we have a net half spin. So in that case, we have a net half spin, half, or we can say unpaired spin. If we have a one unpaired spin, the I value, that is the nuclear spin quantum number, it will take value 1/2. Now when we have the net spin for carbon 13 or hydrogen 1, and there are many such isotopes which have some net spin, and this spin, that means we have the nucleus has a spin, and now we know the nucleus has one additional property, nucleus has a charge. So any nucleus, it has a positive charge. Now that means when something, it has a positive charge and it is spinning, that means it is a spinning positive charge. Now what are the consequences of having a spinning positive charge? Now this positive charge with a spin, we have spin and we have positive charge, that gives rise to a magnetic field. So for example, if we have a proton, a nucleus like this, say this is a hydrogen nucleus, and it's a charged particle, and this charged particle is having a spin. Classically we can show spin like this, like a rotation, three-dimensional rotation, and this spin motion of this positive charge, it gives rise to a magnetic field, and that magnetic field we can designate by what we call a magnetic moment. So this magnetic moment, I can write it as a vector quantity, I can write it like this. So when we have a magnetic spinning particle with a positive charge, it will give rise to a magnetic moment. That means it will give rise to a magnetic dipole. And when we place this magnetic moment, this nuclei in a sample, when we do the experiment, what we do? We take a sample of some molecule. Say if we take a sample of organic molecule, and we put it in an NMR instrument, and then in NMR instrument we are having large magnets which produce a magnetic field. So when we put the instrument on, we apply a magnetic field on this rotating particle which has a charge, a spinning particle rather. The correct term is the spin, it has a spin. So spinning particle having a charge giving rise to a magnetic moment, and when we are applying an external magnetic field. So we apply the external magnetic field. So what the field will do? It will impart a force on this magnetic moment. Now this nucleus, since it has a magnetic moment, it has a magnetic field, it acts as a tiny magnet. Like we have the bar magnets, it also is just like a tiny magnet. We can call it a quantum magnet. So this quantum magnet, what will happen when we put it in applied field? Now we know, if we have a compass and we have a compass needle, we temporarily disturb the compass needle. So what will happen? The needle will precess about the Earth's magnetic field. That is the same if we have a small magnet and we put it in a large magnetic field, it will start precessing about the magnetic field. So same happens here, that we have the magnetic field here, this direction, and we apply the magnetic field. So this particle, it starts spinning. So this is the field direction. This is the field direction. Now what will happen? It will start precessing about this field direction, like this. Start precessing. And it precesses at a particular frequency. That particular frequency is called Larmor frequency. So we have precession of this magnetic moment. Magnetic moment precesses about the direction of the applied field. Or we say that this applied field, this is the axis of the applied field, it imparts a force on this magnetic moment, that's called torque. So that torque, again a vector quantity, it is given by the dot cross product of the magnetic moment vector and the applied field vector. And that torque makes this magnetic moment to precess about the field axis. Now the second thing is when we use the radio frequency. So what will happen? So we will use a radio frequency, electromagnetic radiation in the RF region. Now this radio frequency, what is radio frequency? What is electromagnetic radiation? We know electromagnetic radiation is nothing but oscillating electric and magnetic fields. So that means this radio frequency which we expose nucleus to, so we irradiate this nucleus, or we expose this nucleus to the radio frequency now, and this radio frequency has its own frequency, it has its own energy, and that means it has its own frequency. That means the magnetic field of this radio frequency is oscillating at a certain frequency, and this magnetic moment mu, it is also oscillating, it is also precessing about the applied field direction with a certain frequency. Now if these two frequencies are the same, that means we are applying a radio frequency which is having the same frequency as the precession frequency of this mu, this magnetic moment of the nucleus, which it has by virtue of its spin, or by virtue of its spin angular momentum. About that spin angular momentum we will talk in the next lecture. So it is because of that angular momentum, spin angular momentum, it has a magnetic moment, and this magnetic moment is precessing at a certain frequency. Now we irradiate this with a radio frequency source, and radio frequency radiation has the same frequency as the precession frequency of mu. What will happen? A resonance will take place. So we are talking about the magnetic moment, so that is why here the magnetic word is there. We have the nucleus, so nuclear, we have the magnetic moment induced in the particle, so we have the magnetic word here, and then we have what we call resonance. So when the resonance condition is established, what will happen? The precessing magnetic moment and the radio frequency, they are coming into resonance because of having the same frequency, and energy exchange will take place, and this proton, the spinning proton, it will absorb this radio frequency, and then when it will absorb this radio frequency, it will go to a higher state of energy. That means it is a magnetic moment, it will not precess in an opposite direction. Or we can say the spin, if for example classically we say it has a clockwise spin, now the spin will be anti-clockwise, and the particle that our nucleus, now it will start precessing, its magnetic moment will be like this, and this is the applied field, this is our applied field direction. Now it will processing like this in a cone shaped manner. So it will process in this path like this. And this is one state of the nucleus, one magnetic state of the nucleus. This will be another magnetic state of the nucleus, and the spin state will change, and that will happen because of the absorption of radio frequency. And there will be an energy transient on an energy scale. We will talk about in length about that this energy level diagrams in the subsequent lectures. So before applying, so this is an energy level diagram. So before applying the magnetic field, these two orientations can be of the same energy. So we have the same energy, and they are designated by, it is Mi value. Here we can say Mi value is 1 by 2, and in this case it is Mi value is minus 1 by 2. So both the quantum states Mi value plus 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2, they are of the same energy, but when we apply the external magnetic field, these two orientations are different. That is due to two interactions with the applied field, they are different. So they lead to two different energies, and this is the energy for Mi value plus 1 by 2. This is the energy for Mi value minus 1 by 2. And when we apply the radio frequency photon, we can have a transition. So this is the radio frequency photon. When the resonant condition is established, the photon is absorbed. And when the photon is absorbed, we can plot the photon versus intensity like this. So we have the frequency, or we can take this unit in the magnetic field units also, this axis, and this is the intensity. And at a particular frequency, when the resonance condition is established, that means that radio frequency having this new node. So this is the new node. The photon will be absorbed, and what we will be doing? We are recording an NMR signal on the spectrum. So this is a short and brief introduction of this technique and the principle involved in this technique. Thank you very much for watching this video, and don't go before watching the other coming videos about NMR spectroscopy. Thank you very much.